What actually happens in the HR room and how is this decision made, who to fire and who to retain and all of that.
And then we're dealing with thousands of dollars because anybody can just say, hey, you know what? She's alone every night and she has money. Every night I will have to think, what if I'm going to get robbed?
Mexico was rampant with violence, crimes, everything was normalized.
Hi, everyone. Just a quick stop before you actually deep dive into this podcast, which is amazing. And I'm not just saying for the sake of it. But yes, my name is Abdul Moez, and I'm a marketer. And I am creating this podcast to deep dive into both marketing and business. And Maribel, our today's guest, is a really special one. And our first guest, she shares her experience from how she actually from Philippines moved to Mexico and what happened there, how she lived there, and moving off to Colombia and what she saw there, and then back to Philippines and then to the US. Her journey in governmental services. I mean, it's pretty deep, and there are more videos that I'm actually currently making with amazing guests diving even deeper into the topic, like really getting into the weeds, and I really can't wait to share them with you all. Looking forward to that. Enjoy this one for now, and for more subscribe already, because I'm telling you I have some amazing guest list already planned out and you don't want to be missing that.
So, hi, Maribel. Welcome to this podcast. I just have a bunch of questions, right? So, let's just get to that. You grew up in the Philippines and then moved to Mexico at some point in your life. What was the single biggest cultural lesson that you could not have learned from any business school or marketing textbook?
Well, one thing that I have learned is connection. Connection is something that it's not really it's not taught in school because everyone is focused on like your course, your degree, and all that stuff. But the human centered, the connection, relation needs to be um, it needs to be basically
Fostered.
they need to teach it. Yeah, there has to be something that a subject that will build character. Yeah,
Makes sense. Yeah.
connection, and then having that relationship.
Yeah. Let me just ask you another question, because moving from a country to a different country is never easy. So when you arrived in Mexico, you were entering a completely different economic system, a different consumer psychology, a different relationship with money. How did that rewrite the way you think about people and what they actually want versus what they say they want?
Well, learning from the people that I connected with in school, and having to understand what their priorities in life, what's important to them. So having to learn that family is their number one priority. Even like like having a birthday with like their parents. I mean, learning that and applying it into the business is basically build trust and respect. And for me, being a leader, being a manager in that environment, that I don't, I'm Asian, and there's not a lot of Asian in Guadalajara at that time. And for them, it's how do you say it? It's not.
It's
I didn't
strange.
feel like I was discriminated. Yeah, it's a little strange, and it's I don't really see it as a challenge, but I looked at to myself as opportunities for me to grow, and what should I learn from them, because I'm new in there. I'm a stranger, and I need to adapt and acclimate the culture and understand more about them from different people.
And again, it's quite fascinating that you say this, because at the same time, Mexico was rampant with violence, crimes, everything was normalized. And it actually creates a very specific kind of survivor mindset in the people who live through it. Did you observe that in Mexico? How does that translate to how people build businesses and navigate markets in high risk environments? Because despite everything, Mexico has produced world class entrepreneurs and creative industries. What did you see in Mexican culture that gave people the ability to build and hustle even under extremely difficult conditions?
Well, they are very hardworking, and even though with at that time, um, there's violence, but the city where I lived is it's not really, it's not, it happens in different towns, but for me is what I have seen and I have experienced and how I adapt to it was that learning from their needs and what they need, and then for me being a leader that time, managing over 20 staff, um, their safety is my concern. And then at that time, like with me, I mean, survival, no one know, I don't have any family there. So
Exactly.
having to, yeah, and then every night, and then we're dealing with, thousands of dollars because it's a cash society. The credit card at that time is not very common. People pay cash. So every night when, the business is closed, the clinic is closed, I get the cash. So every night I will have to think, what if I'm going to get robbed? So, and having to deal with that is actually, it's a little kind of scary, but I didn't really get scared. I took it as like I just need to be prepared, always be prepared as to what's going to happen. So and then plus having that relationship with the staff and having them to trust me and respect me, it's actually helped build my confidence because I know they will protect me. Because anybody can just say, hey, you know what? She's alone every night and she has money. You see what I mean? So that connection is very important. And that respect and trust, and they like you, they will protect you. And having to live there, I didn't have any issues whatsoever. And very, very important, especially when it comes to cash. I mean, anybody can just rob me, even just going to the bank. and and then having to go to the bank, I have to acclimate and dress like anybody, and you have to just absorb like how they dress up, how they put makeup. So you have to be very strategic on where you go and what to wear. So you have to be very smart about it and always be ready.
That's seriously a bit scary to just imagine back in the day when it was like, just full of cash society. It isn't like, today where,
Mm-hmm.
you can just wire or use ACH and send the money in maybe like, 2 hours or something, or 10 minutes for that matter. Wow. Just handling large amounts of cash in that kind of a society and that time is unimaginable for me to even think about today. You also described during our initial intro call that you traveled to Cambodia, and then over there you happen to do some sort of charity work. Then it occurred to you, how about you just duplicate this for Philippines, because you know the culture there, you know the language, those are your people, and you wanted to go back to then the Philippines and continue doing the good work there. So firstly, you've been to Cambodia, and
Mm-hmm.
Cambodia historically, at least for the until say 2015, it has been ridden with poverty. and the basic medical care was something that was also inaccessible for them. So what does that kind of poverty do to a community's ability to build any kind of economic future? Is there a direct line between public health and a country's capacity for economic growth, according to you?
Well, seeing the environment in Cambodia, because when I was there, I didn't go to the tourist areas. I went walk in the market, go to where the locals go, and the public, the health issues it's bad because you walk into the market, where vegetables and fruits and all that stuff, flies are everywhere. It smells, and the street, some of part of the market are just full of trash. So I mean, it's you can see that, I think, in every country, like Philippines as well. But having to see it in Cambodia is actually very sad. I mean, I know that there's really don't really they don't have that capacity to, even though it's a priority for them, but the money, the financial, the funding is probably not there. They don't have it. And people are selling like mango for like 25 cents, 25 cents, like in dollar 25, the 25 cents for a dozen of mango, fresh picked mango. And how can you survive with that? So the you I saw, just in comparison with Philippines and Cambodia at that time, I thought that Philippines was very poor. And having to see it in Cambodia, Cambodia is probably 10 years behind.
Ahead. Uh-huh.
No, they're behind
Okay,
from
okay.
Philippines. If you compare it, they're totally behind. If you go to the when you get at that time, I got off the airport, and I thought I was expecting a taxi, but their taxi is actually like the tuk tuk, like the motorcycle, and the streets are just it's dirt and dusty. So I wasn't really prepared for it, but it's great to see the difference of that economy, that if there is no funding, there is no money, everyone suffers. And that public health, the hazard for everyone, and then seeing the kids that they don't have nothing. And so that's why I looked at to myself, I'm like, you know what, I don't, at that time I didn't earn that much, but I thought to myself, at least there's something I can do. And I don't have kids. So I'm like, at least, I cannot give out money, because sometimes, corruption is, it's very rampant. So I thought to myself, I'm just gonna, I don't speak the language. So I will do something that at least for the kids, because I don't have kids, so might as well, put my focus on the kids. So, and I realized that I don't know anybody in Cambodia, so I decided to go to Philippines, and I will do it there. And getting the money, the financial support, because I have decided to, at that time, to help kids with cancer that were confined at the hospital. That a lot of them they're in poverty, and they can't afford to pay for medicine. So I just pick at least like three family that really struggling and cannot really buy the medicine. So I give them cash, and I know a friend there that does it for me. So at least something very small help, and then it is just sad.
So, I mean, it just tells me like how grateful we need to be for our own blessings, and
Yes.
how the medical care, everything is like. See, I'm from India, and the part where I actually live, we are thriving. So we are like the second biggest economy of India, and I'm appreciative. I mean, again, looking at these kind of like hearing these kind of stories just makes me more appreciative.
Hmm.
But when you mentioned from Cambodia and then Philippines, like taking your mission back to Philippines, I just have the right question based on that, which is when you went back to the Philippines to set up the charity instead of doing it in Cambodia, that was a strategic decision. You said you went back to your roots because you knew the language and the environment. In business terms, this is actually a market fit. You choose a market where you had the highest chance of execution. Can you walk us through that decision and what it teaches founders about choosing where to operate? Like, I'm just framing this in a way for the businesses, the young founders, the young people like who are starting their own startups for the first time, like how to position themselves, even if they have a great idea and a product. How do they execute right?
Well, one thing I learned about that is you have to ask yourself, what is it that you want to achieve? And at least write it down. Do self inventory. Self inventory is very important. Not self assessment, but self inventory. What are the skills that you're good at? And you have to ask, what do you want? What's your goal? What is it that you want to achieve? Who are you going to be serving? And where are you going to start? When are you going to start? You have to also ask how. Are you financially capable? So once you know all those basic questions, write down at least three that what's your number one passion, second passion, third passion. And also you have to think, is this sustainable? And how long is that gonna be? What's your goal? Is it gonna be 10 years, 5 years? And you have to forecast and see how is it gonna look like in 1 year. And you gotta have a timeline. The first 3 months, what is it that you want to achieve? So learning that, and then you also have to think that for that sustainability, are you going to use your own money, or are you going to ask for donation? So those are very, very important. And one thing that I have, uh, one of the important things that I considered at that time was financial, like funds. Where do I get funds? And I said to myself, having to ask people for money, I mean, they're just going to look at me like, oh, you're just doing it. You're going to keep it. So I said to myself, you know what? If I'm going to ask donations, it's going to take some time. And my timeline is 6 months and I want to get it done. So that's when I decided that I will use my own money, set aside $200-300 a month. And from there, it's been, and you have to be consistent. So I've been consistent. And then from there, like cash. And then I added more things like, I look at, like here in America, you go to like Facebook Marketplace and there's a lot of free stuff. So I added that kind of strategy that, you know what, I'm going to pick up this free stuff, like free kids' clothes, shoes, and toys. So I started like, getting them from homes, and because they're free. And then I ship them and I give it to them, not just for the kids and with cancer, but small communities. So you have to have that timeline and the passion that what you want to do, because if you don't have that passion, there's to me, it's your focus. You're not going to be aligned with basically your goal. You have to have that passion, and you have to make sure that you have to think about where are you going to get your funds, because you got to have money. And having to start a business, it's not just someone is going to help you. No, it's you yourself. It is very difficult, and you have to be resilient, and don't take these challenges as a setback. No, use it to your advantage as a way of to learn and what you can do. And always look at yourself in the mirror. what am I good at, and use that as leverage.
You started this charity work, and out of nowhere, you ended up in a governmental role. You started to work for in a government organization for 20 years. And most people honestly romanticize government service, or maybe just dismiss it as bureaucratic or slow. So first, I would like to know, how did this switch actually happen, and what are the real business cases for understanding how government functions? Like, what is the real business case for understanding how government functions? Why should entrepreneurs and marketers care about what happens inside government systems? I would appreciate if there are any kind of secrets or um, maybe tips that would help every one of us for you to throw it, today.
Well, working for the government is actually really good. And I would say that the number one that I really liked is the benefits. You get, you have really good retirement plan. Like with me, I have a good retirement plan. The medical benefits is very important here in the US. So it always goes back to self inventory. What is it that you want in life? Do you want stability, like benefits or retirement, or do you want to have more money? Because if you really want to earn a lot of money, you will have to start your own business. You're not going to get rich working for the government. So knowing what you want and your goal in life is very important, because that is how you're going to shape your future. So it's okay, for if you can't afford and start a business, having to work for government, I would highly encourage, because you get to learn a lot of, um, you know, like the business side of it, like the customer, the people that you serve, and different services that's being provided. So you have to have that background, that diverse um, experience and learning from diverse people. So it's good to start in the government. And I know it's very hard, it's very competitive, because that's the reason why. And one thing also, the advantage of having to work in the government is that experience that you gain, and then you go to private sector, there's a lot of skills that actually you can take with you. And having that background, it's actually a plus when you go to the private sector. But learn and do a self inventory as to what's your number one priority: stability or more money. Because yeah, it will shape, you. And because like I mentioned, you're not going to get rich working for the government. I'm not rich. But at that time, my priority was, I want stability. I want my retirement, because at that time when I started, I was young, and then now I took, like 20 years. But I thought to myself, I can do more. So that's why now I'm being retired, not getting a lot, but at least there's more to life than just work, 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 work. And you prepare yourself.
Yeah. And just earlier, a few seconds ago, you mentioned working in government is a bit difficult. Maybe you can just, crawl by in the private industry. Plus, the pay is amazing. So, of course, it makes sense if they even make you work a bit harder. But the government, so, I just have a question on the same. So, government organizations, as you mentioned, are often most difficult places to drive change. Bureaucracy, politics, compliance, all of it working against speed and innovation. So, how did you actually move things forward inside that environment? And what tactics from that experience translate directly into corporate change management? Because you've been talking a lot about management and the government. So, how does it everything tie up?
Well, everything tied up with dealing with your customers and your staff, and having to navigate that, issues everywhere, complaints, it happens all the time. And having to navigate that type of environment is very difficult. However, if you are a leader that knows the strategy, and you're prepared and what to expect, then that conflict management is basically, you can navigate it. And one thing about, like I mentioned earlier, if you have that connection, if you know how to build relationships, if you have that relationship with your staff, with they will they have your back. They will do the best they can to do their work, so you're not going to look bad to the executives and managers and supervisors. So, and also, when you have a team, you have to understand what the issues. Because when I became a manager, I didn't go there like change everything. No, I did not. I started learning from everyone, learn their work. But the first thing that I did at that time was learning what the issues and what were their wish list. And when I found out about the issues, the number one was efficiency. There's so many things that they do that it can be improved. So learning from that, as I have to strategize and think at that time, I was like, what are the things that needs to be changed that it's not going to impact their work? I'm not going to change anything, but at least improve something. So, for example, like job offers that's being sent via email. If you have like hundreds of, even like 10 job offers, it's packet of PDF file. You send it via email, and you can open it and it takes a long time to load because it's a huge file. So that's like number one, for example, like an issue. So knowing that, you have to make improvements. I don't like to use the term change, improvements. So you work with other people, you work with IT, and having that relationship, you build that relationship with other people that you work with. It's so easy to work with them, and they will help you. And don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask for assistance, because you're not expert. There's other people, and always remember that you have a lot of resources around you. You're not alone. You're a team. And so having to, deal with the issues, you have to also work with your staff and get their input. And that's how you can manage that conflict and issues, and having have that smooth transition, or whatever that needs to be changed and needs to be improved. It's so much easier.
Let's just shift gears and come to something even more important, that is 2026. So it is like unpredictable market we are in right now, from every single direction, be it economical, be it the job market. Like everything is like screwed up for every one of us, right? And you have seen everything. You started off from a country, Philippines, that was already, economically behind compared to the, let's say, the US, the UK, which were like, they were established. And then you went to Mexico and you tried to make a life there, and then you came back to Philippines, and then you moved back to the US. and you just didn't move there, but you started to work for the government. It's really, your career has been an amazing journey, firstly, right? Now, the job market, because of the AI and everything, is really haunting, or maybe, scary for every one of us. And you just mentioned how in the past, like, opening a PDF was like a big thing. If a 20 PDF came, like the resumes, uh, you guys just have to figure it out, like how to make it happen. And I'm pretty sure it wasn't just 20. It could have been like, 200 PDFs you guys need to download and review them. And also at that time, ATS system wasn't actually available. It's something,
Mhm.
recent. So if a graduate, like, is passing out in 2026, or if they had passed out in 2025, what should they be doing today? How can they get a job as a fresher? Should they do internship? Should they just build projects on their own, or have the founder tag, or of a startup, make a startup along with their friends, have the founder tag? Or should they actually default to become a creator on YouTube, or maybe say OnlyFans? Because even, people are so desperate to make a living, they are doing that. So how would you help them walk through this daunting path?
Well, AI, if you look at X, there's a lot of it's, postings about, oh, you're going to get, your jobs is going to be replaced by AI. But I always go back to self inventory. What skill set do you have, and what's your best asset? What are you good at with? So always start with yourself and look and see what do you have that can help you. So always starts with you. If you're a student, got your degree, you don't have any work experience, you have no prior work experience, you apply for work, you're not going to get hired, what are you going to do? And it's always been a challenge, not just this year. And I have seen it. Being in HR for 20 years, I have seen it. So always start where you are and think about what you're good at and use it. Because having to be in school, basically, you already have those skills. For example, in school, you do a lot of presentation. So when you do presentation, that's already communication skills, right? So you have that skill set. You write essays and thesis like that. That's writing skills. And you have um, a group project, that's relationship building skills, it's collaboration skills. So you start where you at, what you have, and then you translate it to how it is um, translated to civilian language. Translate those skills, write it the way that will fit and that will meet those organizations that you want to apply to go to apply with, right? Like who to apply. For example, if you're an engineering graduate, right? No experience. However, if you already have those skill set, you go look for work, look at the minimum qualifications, and then look at the job duties. And from there, you translate those skill set that you have, write it, expand it, and how you gain those experience. And even with internship, like you do internship in like government or public private sector, you're already building that collaboration relationship, and there's deadline, and use it because the important thing about getting and becoming a very like a competitive candidate is you need to make sure that you will stand out, because you're going to be competing with applicants or candidates that have way more experience. They're expert, and you're a newly grad. So it's all about story. While I'm talking about story, is that not about, like what you did and all that stuff, but when you present yourself being confident that you have done it, you have hands-on experience, and when you go to a selection interview, that story will help you, as long as you can explain it. No, explain it, and having to explain that you demonstrate those experience, you have done it, you have that hands-on experience. Like in school, you learn the writing, and if the position that you're applying for was requires a lot of writing, that's where you have to have that story, where you can say, hey, while I was in school, I have written publications, I have written this and that, I have presented my ideas, and you know, and then now with AI, is even better. So I don't know if you're going to ask more about AI, because I have a lot to say about AI. But those are the things that you need to do self inventory. Start where you are and look at your skill set. Write it down and translate it to the language where it will meet the qualifications, and it will demonstrate those skill set that you have, that in the story where you go for selection interview.
I couldn't
Because
hear you. I
even
couldn't hear
in
you.
hmm?
Yeah, I actually lost you for a second there. Yeah,
Can you
can
hear me?
continue. I'm sorry. Yeah, I hear you now. I
Oh,
hear you
okay.
now.
Okay. So having to have that self inventory, uh, focus on focus on what you can do, not what you cannot do, and always focus on that. And if you're gonna, because I have interviewed hundreds of candidates, I'm on the other side of the table. Even if you are an expert, you have 15 years, 20 plus years of experience, if you cannot elaborate and demonstrate that, the work, and if someone like a newly grad that is able to articulate and show that they can demonstrate that they have those experience and they're trustworthy and good judgment, of course I will hire the ones that have that good story and able to demonstrate that they can do the work. So it really depends, but having to have that confidence in yourself and knowing your strong skill set, very important. And attend, and you don't need to have a lot of networks. Focus on something, that a kind of network that will help you grow. Find a mentor, attend sessions, like free sessions, and search for any free courses like IBM. I mean, they have free courses that for AI, for example. Look for those and get certification, and you don't need to be certified. No, as long as you have that knowledge, the skills, and the ability to perform the skills and the knowledge that you have, you're going to be you will be a strong candidate. And just make sure that you have that story.
Yeah, when you said all of this, it just occurred to me the fact that content writing. So AI is, amazing writer. You just throw a prompt, it gives a large chunk of
Yeah.
text, right? But even today, there is a demand for content writers. There are job posts out there, people looking for content writers. So when you were actually saying things like we need to be creating connection, and also inventory, skills inventory, and all of that, it just dawned on me or occurred to me that you can do still so much. Meaning, brands previously were doing a lot of SEO work, and now they are looking
Mhm.
for influencers. Meaning, if you have a passion for writing, you can start your own blog or Substack or something and promote the brand. Because even today,
Yes.
the articles are being read. Like with AI, yes, a disruption came by, but it actually came for things that were standardized for a very long time, for 10 plus years. So Google SEO, paid ads, these were the common things, right? But now we have more options because one thing is like getting squeezed. We have more platforms like promote on Instagram or TikTok and so on. That's really good tip from my for me and for my understanding. But there's also this thing that is a lot of people are getting laid off these days, and that would inherently impact their future job search. Meaning a lot of uncomfortable questions may come up,
Mhm.
or and also the fact that there aren't too many companies, meaning everyone are actually running in some kind of financial constraints. That's why, since they are actually diverting those funds to AI data centers, they are like firing people. Even the Oracle firing was like recently was for the same reason.
Mhm.
During this time frame, how do people who are actually looking for job position themselves through their resume, and if there is something that they can do differently rather than going out the independent way and struggling? Since you've been in HR for over 20 years, what are some things that you would suggest, like if they are going approaching for a new job interview, what are the kind of things they need to keep in mind uh, regarding their layoffs and all of that?
Well, don't I know it is very hard when you get laid off, right? It's huge change. It affects your family, your financial number one, especially for you is always goes back to what is it that you're expert, like what kind of work, what. So you always you go to your resume, and you have to make sure that your application or resume is that it's updated. So before you apply, you're looking for the job description, the job flyer. Go back to your resume and look at it and see, okay, which in my resume, where is it that I need to change that will meet what that requirements, or the you're not going to lie, of course, but you want to make sure that it's aligned with that position that you're applying for. So if they're looking for like, if the position will say, oh, this will require like presentation skill, presentation, you're going to be doing a lot of presentation. So you're going back to your resume and you only did like communications, you don't update it. Of course you're going to miss out. So always make sure that before you apply, review your resume, make adjustments, and don't waste your time applying. If you don't meet that minimum qualifications, that's very important. Don't even apply. If you don't meet the minimum qualifications, like I said, don't apply, and keep applying. And I know it's a lot of challenges right now, because even me, I applied for 50 jobs before, like last year. 50 jobs, and I only got 10 callback, and not even a callback response. And out of that 10, um, four recruiters reached out to me via email, and the two are actually via like instant messaging. Ask about my experience, like HR, and it's not even a management position that I applied for. It's a recruiter position. And after I presented myself, my experience in writing, I didn't even get a response after that. So a lot of it, that's the challenge right now. That's the problem. The recruiters, they don't have the accountability anymore. They don't even, that customer service is not there. And that's based on my experience. And that can be a very discouraging for, especially that you just got laid off. That is very discouraging, but don't take it personally. Always look at and see how can I improve, and where should I apply, And if you're really financially strained, then start from the bottom. Look for some ways that you can apply somewhere, that even if it's part-time, even if it's temporary, go for it. Because, and also, if there's any opportunity for you to, like, a volunteer, because having to volunteer, that's how you get to know people. And but nowadays, I mean, the job market is, it's very, very hard. And like for myself, I even applied for manufacturing job. I didn't even get a response, even acknowledgement that my application was received. And that's the challenge. And don't get discouraged. And if you have friends that, like, you also have to look and see that, to think that, okay, if I can't do it on my own, who else have that same mindset as me? So if you have three friends that you guys have that same passion, great ideas, then you three should talk about starting a business partnership. There's a lot of ways. So if you and I, Abdul, like, okay, we're both got laid off, and your skill set, your strong skills is, like this, like communication and doing podcasts. And I love to talk, and, we can partner. So if you're really strong at technical skills, like video and all that stuff, and then one of your friend is good at speaking, that loves to share story, and then one of your friend that knows how to, like, just like to do marketing, those are really good start. The three of you, and put it all that ideas together, and now you will have your business.
Yeah.
So so don't only depend on yourself. Look at your your environment and who you can partner with. Is start what you're good at it, what you're good at.
So you mentioned that you are looking for a job, and you also
Mhm.
mentioned that you were in the government. You're working for a government. So what actually happened, and why look for a job? You should be. You said you are retired, so you should be making enough funds. So why look for a job?
Well, I actually, because I retired, and I need extra income, because I'm not making enough. I'm not, the sufficient income for retirement is not enough. So I
From the
look for
government.
work. Yes, look for work to supplement my income. However, it's just very difficult. And that's when I realized that, what, there's that gap. And I did research as to, is it very common for my age that I don't get hired? And knowing that and having that knowledge, that's when I decided, what, I have this expertise. I will build my own company.
You mentioned that you have been retired and looking extra income because the government funds doesn't actually support your daily living or monthly but bills, right? Are you looking for full-time roles yourself, part-time roles? What kind of roles and what kind of difficulties are you actually experiencing yourself? And how did this business transition come into your life? Can you just talk about your business too as well?
Yes. So it's It's something that I have also experienced. Well, in HR, I have seen the issues for students and for the veterans. And I felt really bad at that time because I know they have the skill set. However, they just don't know how to navigate the application process and improve their applications. And that's why they're not being competitive. So, and then with me, I needed, extra income to, so that way I can travel. But with the job market that is just very, very bad, that you're competing with a lot of candidates, and probably who knows that the those organizations, I don't know if they're really truly hiring. We don't know. Or maybe they're just doing it for the record, and probably a lot of them are just doing it to post it because per policy, and but they're actually promoting employees from within. We don't know. But the thing is that at least for organization, they need to have their staff be accountable. At least respond to the applicants, acknowledge their application that's being received, because you're dealing with individuals that probably so depressed, so discouraged because they got laid off, and having to not respond to them is, it's not really nice. And for leaders, like I said, they need to have their staff be accountable and make sure that customer service is there. And they gotta have the human centered approach. That how is it gonna be feel if you're gonna be in that same, if you're in their
Same
shoes?
shoes, yeah.
And,
And in fact, this can
yeah.
happen to anyone because the
Mhm,
economy is such a mess. People are getting fired left, right, and center. Just because you have
mhm,
a job today doesn't mean you're going to have a job tomorrow. So, yes, what you mentioned about being empathetic to people in a rough situation and letting
mhm.
them know through a
Yes.
message, or again, everything is getting automated. So why can't you guys automate this particular thing? A rejection message, let's say you hired someone already, send a rejection message in mass to everyone who actually applied for the job. Even I don't get that.
Mhm.
I was like
You
searching for a
see?
job last year, and it's horrific. It is horrific, the
Mhm,
state. Yeah. So now you also mentioned about veterans. And in the US, the veterans are somewhat like disposable, meaning once they have served their term in the army, now they get back into the real world. They must have PTSDs if they had been into war, whatever it is, right? They try to integrate themselves from the army life back into a civilian life, looking for a job.
mhm.
But I'm pretty sure it should be really tough because they never pick those skills up. So people who already have those skills are struggling to find a work. And these people who doesn't have any kind of background, just um, army role in their resume, must be really tough for them. So how do they
Yes.
actually navigate in this troublesome environment and economy?
Well, learn how to translate your military experience, because for example, if you're a sergeant or you're a captain, that's a good example. You have a team, which means as a captain, you have that leadership skills, right? You translate that. As a captain, you're a leader, you have a team, which means you have that leadership skills already. And how many individuals in your team? 20, for example. You already have a team of 20. You manage them. That's management skills, supervisory skills. So it's about translating. That's translation. So if you're doing, of course, there's safety. You don't want your team to get hurt, get injured. You have that critical thinking skills. So you translate that. So there's a lot of skill set for being a military. It's just that the missing part, the gap is they're not they're not taught on how to translate those military experience to civilian language. They already possess this. They already demonstrate those skills.
So let me actually understand. Let this be like an example for those who are wondering, like, what can I do with my
Mhm.
skills? So I think they can be amazing bodyguards for celebrities. They
Mhm.
can, aside, because a lot of people, veterans or whoever coming from the army, by default choose to be bouncers. But there's an alternative path as well, being uh, the bouncer for the celebrity events. Because I was just watching this interview by a bodyguard who was like a bodyguard for one of the top movie stars in India, that is Shah Rukh Khan.
Mm.
So yeah, that was helpful, and that's why I came with this. And also, managerial positions, for example, there should be several IT parks like the Silicon Valley, right, where there are events happening, tech events where people are meeting. Like, I'm seeing so many hundreds of events happening throughout the year in the US alone, where the people like these are required for looking at the whatever is happening, managing stuff, monitoring, reporting, correcting anything if anything is going wrong. Construction is another thing where they can supervise the workers. Again, the constructions never stops. It's just like
Mhm.
multiplying every year. So, and a lot of accidents are actually happening. So I think by having someone with this background is something, these people could be fit. For example, if you put me in such a role, I would not perform at all because I don't have those skills. I don't have that inventory. Like, that is not in my inventory. Is there
Mhm.
any other role that you would recommend that they can get? Like, can you just name a few aside from the
Oh,
low paying ones?
coming from
Or yeah, coming after big, coming.
coming from the military background.
Yes.
Well, there's a lot of things, not just security. You can go to law enforcement. You can apply, become a police officer. You can apply as a school officer, like security for kids. So if you're in a military that you basically drive, like the driver, the designated driver, you can probably start a business with transportation related business. And for work, you can apply for a driver, personal driver for politicians, or anyone that needs a, an organization that needs driver for their clients. So there's a lot of things that you just need to think. And a lot of people, you probably heard it, it says think outside the box.
Yeah.
Right? But to me, I really don't look at it that way. Think that there is no box. The ideas you have is limitless. Don't limit. So always find a way and be creative and try to navigate how you can use. If you're expert in driving, for example, you go to like assisted living, like for like a home for the aged, for example. And like those old people and that facility, if they want to go out, so you're expert in driving, you go present yourself. Hey, I'm starting a business. I have this service that I have a van. and then I can take your residence once a week for, pleasure. You go to the beach, you contract with them.
Understood.
Right? I mean, it, yes, there's a lot of ways. Not just because you're doing the military work and you're limited to law enforcement, the security. No, always go to what skills that you're good at.
Or maybe they can even
And
learn new skills and start their life back.
yes,
uh yeah.
yes, absolutely. And a lot of them are actually, they're medic.
Yeah.
So if you want to be licensed, go back to school. Look for an organization that have a really good tuition reimbursement, because if you get hired, you can go back to school and you get that tuition reimbursement from the organization, and you can get your registered nurse license.
And let me actually ask this question. You mentioned that you retired, like your retirement came by, so you retired, and then you applied for jobs because you wanted additional funds to support yourself. I'm sure there should be so many things, medical bills
Mhm.
and all of that. Um, then you
Oh,
didn't find
yes.
any jobs, and that actually motivated you to start your own thing. And that should be like daunting. Starting your own business, you never know, it can also fail, right? So how is your business today? Where is it now? How many people, like, or maybe who you are actually helping? Like, you didn't find a job that made you find hundreds or thousands of people find their own job. So because one person didn't get a job, several hundreds or thousands are getting a job because of her. So, where is it now? And would you like to share your organization's name? How do they contact you? Like anyone, even the companies or the employees, if they are looking for a job but but just didn't find. Um, can you share more details, basically?
Yes. So because of that experience that I have, having not getting hired, not even getting a response, I used myself as an example. And my background also having seen that gap of the students and veterans, the issues already, and that really motivated me. Like, you know what, something needs to be done, because I'm not the only person that's probably having that same issue. There's a lot of us, and there's a lot of retirees also that they want extra income. So, you know what? I will build something from scratch, and that's why I learned AI. I'm not gonna pay money to learn AI. I did research. I get resources for free, and learn and practice, and so my business right now is actually for 3 months. I started basically last year, and then I did full momentum late of January, and I'll be happy to say that I have, as of yesterday, I have 645 career center and university network. Can you believe that?
It's
And I
bonkers.
have, yes, 645. And then having to have the AI, learn AI. So I build tools myself. I created a system, that translation. The students experience translating into the civilian language, the same thing for veterans. So now I'm also developing for something for firefighters, for EMS personnel, because they're also they struggle. So I look for ways that how I can supplement and bridge any gaps right now in the society, because it's going to get worse. And if people are so focused on into having, of course, I need money. That's why I have the paid consulting services. However, with having to have an initiative and having that foundation of human centered, building income opportunity and well-being, and having the initiative to have people, and then you engage with them, you have that connection. That is how you're going to gain trust. I gain trust, and that's how I get clients. And with my expertise in recruitment, I can develop tests, bilingual testing, test development, recruitment, whatever that I'm good at, and used it as leverage. And with the team, it's growing. Right now, it's all about contribution from people that align with my mission and believe in my mission, that have the same passion as me, and having to learn and get those insights from other people from diverse brain, I would say, human intelligence, and then using artificial intelligence is amazing. And that's how I came up with a lot of projects right now. And also, it is slow, like for the paid consulting, it's a little slow because you have to build trust. So there's other ways that I am doing. I'm opening for sponsorships, um, a collaboration, and partnerships. So there's a lot of ways. That's why I say ideas are limitless, and don't be afraid to try. Do it. Don't even hesitate.
Yeah. And you just mentioned earlier about not lying on the resume. But it's quite fascinating and surprising that when, people must have just got this award, or maybe they were recognized for good performance, or they must have just got promoted in their organization. Yet next Monday they come in, their Microsoft Teams is logged out, their logins don't work, and they get to hear, that they have been fired. I'd like to understand, since you've been in the business of, like you've been in HR yourself for 20 years, does this decision come by? Like how, they were just promoted a week ago or maybe 2 days ago. They must have maybe, they were recognized for good work. They must have been appreciated, formal emails. But despite all of that, they should be retained, but they get fired. They get laid off. So what happens in the HR room? And can you just spill some secrets on that?
I'm sorry, I didn't really get the question.
Okay.
Well,
So you mentioned about actually lying on the resume, right?
mhm.
So I really want to understand, because the reason that people lie is they feel like they are inadequate at something. For example, a person, let's call him Jack. So Jack must have got promoted the previous week at Oracle, or let's say Facebook, but uh, the same Thursday or maybe on next Monday, that same Jack must have gotten fired. Okay. And he was just promoted, or maybe was just recognized, and he got a formal email saying his work was appreciated, like, and all of that. But despite that kind of recognition, on Monday he sees his accounts were like completely logged out for him. He got fired. He gets to learn on Monday morning that he's fired. So what actually happens in the HR room, and how is this decision made, like who to fire and who to retain and all of that? Because from our understanding, this person should be retained, the one who got promoted, not fired. So what happens?
Well, it's actually an employer relations topic, which I'm not really like an expert. But from my perspective, it's actually there's a lot of reasons behind it, and sometimes the needs of the department, and there's politics behind it, and they also have to look and see if your position is still even, you know needed. And that's the thing about private sector, because you're at will employee, they can just fire with no reason. And you have to understand that. You have to prepare, because just because you're there 15 years, you get promoted next week, and then the following week you get fired. That's expected, because you're an at will employee. Whereas you work for government, they cannot just fire you. If you pass probation, there's a due process. So it goes back to what you want, but then there's always departmental change, and a lot of times, if there's a new manager, new executive coming on board, always expect that there's a change, and they have to look and see that, okay, if you're getting promoted, you get paid $100,000 a year, for example, and one of the employee is already doing part of the work. Why keep you? They have to save money. So learn, and it just always prepare yourself that you're an at-will employee.
Okay.
You can be
Um,
fired for no reason.
Yeah, and at the same time, you mentioned your own journey in job search. Like you've been kind of looking for jobs, or at least last year you applied for 50 roles, but you never got selected, or you just never heard back from them. And these days, there's a new phenomena that's actually running in the world. That is, people across the world applying for jobs in the US for remote roles. That it makes it even more harder for the people who are based out of the US itself. So, how do you actually view all of this new whole remote environment that has been like came about after COVID? And do you think it is actually fair that these people apply for jobs in the US, or do you think it's unfair for the folks in the US? And also have a follow up question, but before that, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this.
Yeah, I won't say, I think it's a when you apply, you always have to look at it as competition. It's a competition. You're competing with other people. And I think with having, like, for example, like you applying remote jobs, I mean, always have to see that how can you stand out? And you're competing with a lot of new graduates that are tech savvy. And if you're at the age where you're not a tech savvy, I mean, you're going to be behind. So it's a competition. Prepare yourself, keep learning, and always use what you have as a leverage. And yeah, remote and having to apply with, like even me, I have a lot of experience, but yet I didn't even get a response. And that's the reality nowadays. That's why you have to accept the fact that that is the environment that we have now, and don't get it into your skin, because if you do, you're going to get discouraged, you're going to be depressed. So use it to push you and learn more, and embrace whatever AI, and learn and be and compete.
Makes sense. Um, so let's actually explore your own personal journey, which is that you've mentioned, that we need to be upskilling. We can do this, we can do that. So how has your journey been improved based on whatever action plan you just shared, and when you implemented that for yourself, has there been any improvements? Did the ships or the tides actually turn around? Can you just maybe motivate the audience that might be watching this? And
Oh, absolutely. So going back to the job market, and like I mentioned, always be ready, always be prepared, and keep learning. is that was actually the key that helped me, because with AI, everything is new. AI is new to me. And of course, I started looking at it, and then I have to, and I asked myself, like, I need to learn more about it. What's the foundation of AI? So I went online, looked for free courses, and I found out IBM that they have the, I think, 9 hours of AI foundation. And I took that course, I took that class. And now I have a better understanding how AI operates. And learning from that, then I was able to navigate, like, oh, okay, now I understand. So now I will say, with that knowledge, and then I was able to look at my skill set that, oh, yeah, I can do it. So I was able to basically use AI now to my advantage. I, however, using AI is not that it's using my judgment. I use AI as a tool, a powerful tool that basically I'm using it now as part of me. That you use your human intelligence, the artificial intelligence. Don't make sure that you don't basically depend on AI, because the AI cannot work good. It cannot have a good output if you don't have a really good input. Your ideas, your human intellect is way more important than the artificial intelligence, because the artificial intelligence will work if you have a lot of ideas on how you want to do it, how you want to do things. So use it as a tool. Don't be dependent on it. Make sure that your judgment, your critical thinking, your problem solving, even though that can help you, but always be the master of the AI. Have the AI as your servant. I would say you're the pilot and the AI is your co-pilot.
Yeah, and just before we actually lose track, I mentioned that I have another question to ask that I actually happen to remember now. That is, big tech companies are actually replacing expensive domestic workers with international talents on H-1B visas. Just like maybe either advertising the job remotely and having India or maybe the Philippines or maybe some economically backward country compared to the US, right? Yeah, having a job ad for them, or rather than if they want an in-house employee, they are hiring employees on H-1B visas, right? Small and mid-sized businesses are doing something similar as well. Right. As an HR expert who has been in this field for 20 years now, what are the hidden risks in that cost cutting strategy? What does the economic picture actually looks like when you factor in training, retention, and output quality? And let's say, again, in addition to this question, if it was a startup doing the same, that was like hiring remote workers, right? If you had to advise that founder with 5 employees who has never formally thought about HR, what is the first thing they need to do this week? What is the single highest leverage HR move for a company at that early stage? Like, would you ask them to go for remote or in-house? If in-house, how do they balance between the cost and all of that?
Well, you have to look at and see where your financial situation. So is your startup have the money? Do you have the funds to even hire someone? And is it really necessary right now? Because if you're a startup and you started hiring remote, and you don't have the return of investment, you're going to lose money. So think about the money that you can use to improve your business and how you can use it for something that will help you market. And with having an employee right away is probably not a good thing. I mean, it just really depends. Like I said, if you have the funds, it will be so much easier. But if you don't have the funds, if you don't have funds, then that's very different story. Um, it's just start. What is it that you want to achieve? And as far as with HR side, whether you hire remotely or you hire from another country. So if you want to save money, then of course you hire somewhere like from, for example, like India, where basically they don't really need medical benefits and you can hire them temporary. So you're not really tied to anything that is going to,
Financial impact.
yes, exactly. So you have to analyze and think that, okay, what's your the needs of your business. So for example, like me, if I need someone that wants I need someone that can help me build a website and I have the funds, so of course I'm gonna probably look for and go into LinkedIn and then find newly grads that eager to work and they're tech savvy. And if they're from India, for example, I will hire them in probably 3 months as a contract.
And yeah, what would take for the same role, maybe in the US, about $1,000, you can get the same for someone from India for, let's say, $300 to $400. And also, as you mentioned rightfully, you don't have to have any benefits backing them up, because it wouldn't be legible here. You can't. It doesn't make sense that you can do that. There's no infrastructure. So yes,
Yes.
but at the same time, for the Indians out here, or let's say in the Philippines or anywhere, that is a little bit economically behind the US and the other major European countries. It's a lot of money at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
In India, you would have to struggle a whole month for that. But if it is a project to project per
Yes.
basis, this is a whole lot of money. And at the same time, it's not a whole lot
Yes.
money for someone from the US. It's a good advice,
Mm-hmm.
in my understanding. All right then.
Yeah.
So let's actually come back to the newly grads, because I have some fascinating questions that I just want them to have something going on for themselves, rather than them turning out to social media or maybe OnlyFans, things like that. So a lot of them, while they are graduating or after they have graduated, look forward to internships. That is actually supposed to bridge the gap between education and employment. But most internships these days have become either free labor arrangements or structured enough that interns spend their time filing things rather than building anything. So they never actually get the skills when they get out of the college or the university. What does a good internship structure should actually look like, and what is the ROI for a company that does it right?
Well, internship is basically, it really depends on, because some of the degree that you're taking, for example, like like licensed therapists, like marriage and family therapists, for example, you will have to go through internship before you get to graduate. That's part of the degree, part of your course. So with having to, probably you're talking maybe like volunteer, because the internship is like part of the, like I said, part of the degree. But I don't know, because in America, that's part of the course. But probably in other countries, like in the Philippines, we call it on the job, not really on the job training. It's I forgot the term that we use in the Philippines, but it's it's something that the employer should not really take advantage, and because you're gonna get free free labor using the, because they have interns. If you're gonna do intern, you do the work, you learn, but of course you're being supervised. But sometimes if the organization is so busy, they're short staff, you're gonna be doing a lot of work. It's like an employee, but you're unpaid, and the only thing that you will get from that internship is your hours, right? So just use it as a leverage. Learn as much as you can, because when you apply for work, a real job, you will have that story. You've learned from different people. And that's one of the things that you have to take advantage, like from learning and do a hands on training, hands on experience, even though you're doing internship, but you're doing the work, you're learning. And find other ways that to learn from other people as well, not only focus on your work, but learn from other people and see the whole picture, the big picture as to what the organization is doing. And but it's something that a leverage that you can use to learn.
Understood. All right. Okay. I just have a few more questions. I think
That's fine.
we had covered everything that we can actually cover for today. Um, but these, okay, I just have two questions from my end. I think this should add a lot of value, and let me just kickstart with the first one. If you were to build a business from zero today, knowing everything you know about culture, systems, gaps, and human behavior, what would you build and why?
Well, I will build something that I already have the skill set. So with me being in HR, I have seen the gap and the goal that I want to achieve is bridging that gap. So that's how I'm going to start. So what is it that I need to do to bridge that gap? So basically, like I mentioned earlier, like you find issues. What are those issues? Because that will give you a lot of ideas. Like with me, bridging a gap, for example, like the employment gap for students, for example, that students don't have that leverage to compete because they don't know how to translate their student experience while in school. So, what can I do to bridge that gap? So, with AI, and you have that knowledge, your intellect, and you have those ideas, and then you use AI to help you build a system, a tool to help the students.
Can
So,
you can you just describe in a particular way, like what would be the thing? Can you just in a way that we all could understand? Like, yeah, there are certainly gaps. So, what are the gaps, and how would you do that
well,
using AI?
so using AI, so you build a tool that will help translate. Basically, you build a system, right? Where the you build a system where the students can write their student experience, like their degree, and what were their um, experience, like with their project, group project. So the AI will basically automatically translate it to group project, and it will say translate it to the civilian language like collaboration with the team. So you want to have that system that translate it. So if you're taking business, so you put in your degree as business, the AI will translate. Okay, what are those things in business that the students learn, and the AI will list that, and then you review it, and there's your experience right there, your background.
That means even the education system should change a little to accommodate this. For example, the AI is a good summarization tool. It actually scores your profile and does all of that, right? And what you're saying is really a good piece of information. But at this present moment, I think even the like I mentioned, the institutions, the educational institutions should um, adopt more practical stuff rather than just being a lot more theoretical, because currently the universities and the colleges are primarily built on what you read and what you write on the answer sheet. A lot less goes into the networking or the projects. There are
Mhm.
projects, but how it would actually translate in the AI era is a little bit ambiguous. And it's not
Mhm.
like, up to par. And maybe that is why a lot of recent grads are facing difficulties in finding a
Mhm.
job and so on. So that's a beautiful piece of advice. And how do you think? Okay, never mind. I don't just want to. Yeah, I'm just having so many questions, but we are also under time constraints. So I really want to get to the next one. But yeah,
Mhm.
before I actually get to the next one, what do you think about this suggestion of mine? Do you think I am right that even the educational institutions should actually adopt to the new way of the world, which is living with the
Of
AI?
course. Yes, they have to. The thing is that, in America, there's a lot of procedures, and there's process. And a lot of the system were actually, it's a legacy system. And change is so hard. And especially that if you have management that's been there for years that refuse to adapt the change, and that makes it difficult. So that change is going to be slow. So if you're going to be a leader that in an organization, it's good to be to have an open mind and find out what's the gap and how it's going to affect the organization in the future. Because if you're not going to learn, and if you're not going to be acclimated to the change, is example for AI, your organization is going to be behind. And at the same time, if you're a leader in a school, like the executive in school, your students are going to be affected, because if you're not supporting what this new technology like the AI now, if you're not supportive of it, and your students are basically, they're going to be behind as well, because you're not going to be pushing for something that is good for them. Because you don't, if you don't believe in getting acclimated and learn and adapt, that change is going to be very, very slow. And a part of it also, in if you're a student that coming from that school, for example, and they will say, oh yeah, they still have that legacy system. I mean, that might not look good as a, and I think with like in Philippines, for example, having to come from a university, like a small university, you don't get an edge. And I don't know about India, but I have seen that when you apply for work, and or the university you graduated from also speaks for you. So that's why it's very important for leaders and organization that they need to be uh, have that open mind and adapt to the new change and help the entire organization under you to move forward. And that legacy system has to at least improve.
Say there are a million founders, marketers, and early career professionals watching this right now. What is the one thing they are probably doing right now that is going to cost them significantly in 3 to 5 years if they don't actually change it in the next couple of months? As an HR, of
Well,
course.
if you're not going to change, then it's going to, as a leader, if I'm going to look at you, it's you're not going to look good as a leader because you're dragging your own team to something that's not applicable anymore at today's environment. So you're making your team behind. You're going to be behind. So always think about what is it that what's good for the team and what's good for the organization, what's the needs of the organization, and think ahead as to what's going to happen like in a year because AI is changing so fast. It's rapidly growing. And as an HR, for example, if I'm a recruiter, right, and students nowadays are they have AI, they know and they can ask AI like what's the best question that I can ask a recruiter that like why I did not meet the minimum qualifications. So if you ask a very good specific question to a recruiter, and if you're a leader that's managing this team of recruiters that they're not equipped, how can they even answer a good question from a candidate? You can be challenged. And think about as to how many more questions are going to be coming up, like hard questions, because AI now they can generate that question very easily and they can challenge your process, they can challenge your rules and your policy that you might have a hard time explaining, right? So having to have that open mind and learn and adapt is very important.
Yeah. And with that, I just like to say thank you very much, Maribel, for coming. No, just taking some time from your busy day and being available for this podcast. And I truly appreciate that one. And it was really amazing having this chat with you. I'm just saying from the bottom of my heart. And I know this is your first time as well, so you must have been a little bit nervous. Yeah.
It's really it's a pleasure, Abdul, and I'm so glad, and it makes me so happy that you reach out to me, and I mean, what you're doing is actually excellent because you're helping out a lot of people and building that confidence and teaching them on how to navigate in today's job environment. And you're a leader, you're leading.
And yeah, thank you. Thank you very much
Yes.
for joining in,
Okay, thank you,
Maribel.
Abdul.
Bye bye.
Thank you so much. Bye bye.